Hello, my name is Dr. Ruthie, or Dr. Ruthie Stifter if you want to be formal. I'm a professional sexuality educator, and I blog over at exploringintimacy.com. But today I am here answering your questions on sex and relationships. Many thanks to the great folks at funwares.com who sponsor this and make this possible, so check them out. All right, today I have a long question that I'm going to summarize for you, which I get asked fairly frequently, so I'm glad to be able to answer this one on video today. Dear Dr. Ruthie, my wife and I are looking at opening our relationship after 20 happy years together. Congratulations. We want to add new energy to the relationship. We think we can handle the opening, but what we want to make sure is that we're safe. What do I need to tend to safety-wise as we open our relationship? Signed, Swinger Guy. Swinger Guy, I'm so glad that you wrote and that you are concerned about tending to this. There are a lot of unfortunate stereotypes out there, some of them backed by research, about how at a certain age folks often tend to neglect safer sex options, especially if they're no longer worried about pregnancy. So I don't know if that's a concern for the two of you or not. I don't know your ages or her age especially, but I am pleased that this is something that you're taking seriously, as we all need to be. Age is not a protective factor, either too young nor too old. Neither will protect you when it comes to unsafe sexual practices. So, excellent. I'm so glad that you both are tending to this. So let's talk about protection. It might be a topic that you haven't had to deal with in some time, presumably in a monogamous relationship for all these years. So, let's look at the different types of protection that we're looking at. Now, you need to be tending to these types of protection whether you currently have an STI, sexually transmitted infection, that's what we call STDs these days, or whether you don't. Either way, it's very important that you be tending to these things, because no STI makes it okay for you to face the same kind of STI. So for instance, let's say a person is HIV positive. Restricting themselves to only having sex with other people who are HIV positive is not a safety measure, because both people's HIV can be slightly different. It can kind of kick off each other's symptoms, can cause infection in bad ways, and that goes for all different kinds of STIs. So for instance, herpes. I've met all of these people who believe that if you have herpes, you should only date other people who have herpes, and then you'll be somehow immune to each other's herpes. Not the case at all, right? So this is something to be very attuned to, and just want to make sure that you are aware starting off. So when we're dealing with safety issues, we need to remember the times in which we need to really step up on our safety. Some of the highest risk behavior you can engage in is penile vaginal intercourse and penile anal intercourse. Why? It's just kind of the lay of the land and how we're built. It's just our anatomy makes those particularly high risk activities. Good news is that your trusty friend, the male condom, or the female condom, can both be really effective for you. Don't use them both at the same time, and don't use more than one of them at once. That actually decreases their usefulness because they make friction on each other with the layers. So go ahead and pick your favorite. Experiment with different brands of male condoms. Experiment with a female condom. As far as I know, there's only one brand of that. And see what you like. And I've got all different kinds of videos about those things, and you can find lots of instruction online for that. So the next thing that you need to be considering protection for is oral sex. Oral sex on a guy and oral sex on a gal. Both of them need to be protected in order to keep risk down. Now, a lot of people don't use protection for these activities, and that's a mistake. One of the ways that STIs can be transmitted is simply by skin-to-skin contact. So even if you don't come into contact with that other person's sexual fluids, say it's oral sex on a male and he doesn't seem to be producing any fluids at the point while you're doing it, you're still making that skin-to-skin contact, so there is still a risk there. Oral sex is a lower risk activity than vaginal intercourse or anal intercourse, but it still does have some risk to it. In order to protect yourself, if you as a guy are receiving oral sex, or if you are giving oral sex to a guy, then what you want to be doing is using a male condom and keeping a good eye out for the area that isn't covered by the condom as well, which by the way is good advice anytime you're in contact with someone's genitalia. If there are lumps and bumps that don't look right, you know what? Move on to a different kind of activity, or make sure that those particular areas are being covered by your safer sex protection barriers. Oral sex on her, we can be using a dental dam. You want to get, the larger size ones. They're easier to navigate. They even make great little kind of sexy leather strappy undergarments that will hold them in place if you really are dedicated to using lots of dental dam protection, which is excellent. And some folks say that you can also use plastic wrap. The research is back and forth on this. It hasn't been tested for all STIs. It has been researched for some and found to be effective. Obviously, whatever barrier you're using for oral sex for a woman, don't flip it over, right? You want to keep all of her stuff on one side and all of your stuff on the other side. The next thing to be considering is manual stimulation. Yes, giving hand jobs. Again, that's skin-to-skin contact and also contacts with bodily fluids, because what do we do with our hands? We rub our noses, especially in allergy season. We rub our eyes, or touch our mouths, ears, wherever we're, touch our own genitals, right? So we want to make sure that we're not bringing our partner's fluids or any skin contact infections to our own body. So not only putting gloves on, but not touching yourself with the outside of those gloves after you've touched your partner. So a good glove, a latex glove or a nitrile glove, is very useful. You want to be careful when you're using sex toys. You want to make sure that if you have the kind that can be boiled, you're boiling them between partners, and that you're also going ahead and covering them with condoms, male or female, or gloves. Smaller toys can be put into a glove and you can tie the top off if you want. And be particularly mindful of going back and forth between partners. If you've put on a condom and you've had intercourse with one partner, you can't just go ahead and have intercourse with the next one without cleaning off and refreshing the condom with a new condom. Again, same with the gloves. You can't touch one person, then touch yourself or another person without swapping out those gloves. It sounds like a lot of hassle, but let me tell you that once you get used to this and you get into the mode of it, it comes really naturally. And to be very, very honest with you, relieving so much of the pressure of STI transmission really does make you feel more free. It sounds counterintuitive that it's less free to be watching out for all these things, but really it's more freeing because you don't have to be so worried about all these things. Check with your doctor about your risk level and how often they think you should be getting tested. And remember to get those tests too, even though you are lower risk when you're taking all these wonderful precautions. I'm Dr. Ruthie. These are your things to be considering for safer sex. You might want to take a look at Planned Parenthood or Scarleteen's website to get more information on STIs and transmission and safety and up-to-date type stuff. And I will see you at the next video. Thanks.